Crypt Keepers, thank you so much for tuning into Amy's Crypt. Today we're going to be talking about all of my haunted dolls. And if you haven't done so already, go and watch the part 1 video of this, which I'm going to link below, because I basically conducted a haunted doll experiment there, where I asked you guys to watch a video and then comment sharing your thoughts and feelings about each of the dolls that I presented in that video. And I tell you what guys, you did so great. I got hundreds of comments and some of them were really interesting. So let's dive right in and start off with the first doll ghost story that I told you guys about, which was Nancy. And Nancy was basically the doll that I found on the off chance while I was going for a secondhand store. I saw her and I kind of just knew that I had to get her. There was like an instant connection there. I felt a really positive vibe from her and almost like a nostalgia. It's so hard to explain that. But Nancy was actually doll number 3. So this one here was Nancy. Now, I personally don't feel any bad negative vibes or energy around Nancy. She actually feels really quite pleasant to me, and as I said, there's like this nostalgia feeling where she feels familiar, and I kind of don't know where that comes from, but I just have that feeling with her. And I found all of the comments that you left about Nancy to be really intriguing, and she ended up being one of the more interesting dolls for comments, because I mean, my feelings are so positive around her, but there were a lot of you that described having negative feelings and negative connotations about this particular doll. But what's even more interesting is the comments were so split. It was about almost like 50-50. People either feeling like a weird negative vibe or, you know, a nice positive pleasant vibe from this doll. So as I mentioned, I did get a lot of negative sort of type descriptors related to my doll Nancy. And what I did was I kind of went through all of the comments and I almost like grouped and tallied specific keywords so that I could see, you know, maybe there's a correlation, like all these negative feelings towards the doll, all of these positive feelings for the doll. And I've listed them in a way where I can tell you what the most popular negative type descriptors of Nancy were. So I'll read them out kind of in order. But a lot of people mentioned feeling that the doll may be evil, or there's something about the doll that you can't trust. They said that the doll freaks them out. They described having a creepy vibe or feeling about the doll, or saying that the doll gives them chills. And interestingly, you know, going along with the do not trust, a lot of people use the words specifically secretive or deceptive to go along with this doll. And then uncomfortable and sad were also very strong descriptors that a lot of people use to describe their feelings about Nancy. But there were some pretty powerful positive descriptors of Nancy, and the top ones that I found were the word positive, describing her as pretty or beautiful or just looking really nice, and interestingly, nostalgia, which was for me my main feeling to describe this doll. So guys, they were the main descriptors of how Nancy made you feel in the comments, but the one keyword that outranked all of them was that you felt nothing towards Nancy. So I would say it's pretty equally split, where people are either saying, you know, that doll's not haunted, I don't get feelings from it. There were just as many people that were saying this is a lovely doll, I really like this doll. And then there were a lot of people that saying there's something off, there's something bad vibes about that doll. So it's kind of interesting and pretty cool to see those secretive and deceptive kind of keywords thrown in there as well, because it makes you think, is there more to this doll? Like, is she hiding something? You know, is she making me feel this way, but really she's bad or something? I don't know, it's just been very interesting, but I still don't get any negative vibes from this doll. I still feel like this is, you know, if there is a spirit attached, it's not malevolent, it's not bad in any way. So thank you to everyone that participated and left comments, specifically if you left comments about Nancy. It's just really fascinating to see the connection between, you know, essentially strangers watching that video on the internet looking at this doll, which I thought was really cool. Now, there has been a couple of strange things that happened once I brought Nancy back home into our house, essentially. So some of the things that have happened since, you know, Nancy has come into my possession, Jared can also attest to, so throughout this video I'm probably going to chuck in a few clips where I talk to him about what's happened, so you can kind of see my perspective as well as his and get a better, broader view of that experience. But some weird stuff has happened around Nancy. So the first of those weird things I would say was hearing footsteps in the night, which sounds super creepy. And how I would describe it was a kid, not something super heavy, but a small child running through the upstairs area of our house. So this is actually something that happened while Jared and I were asleep. It woke both of us up, and we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, is there like someone upstairs? So Jared went around the house like, is there an intruder? Is someone trying to rob us? What's going on? There was no one there, so we went back to sleep. But it was just really loud, really vivid, really strange, and I believe it happened a couple of days after getting Nancy.
I remember waking up, it was middle of the night, I don't recall what time, maybe 1 in the morning, but I could be wrong. I heard the distinct steps of feet on carpet, like, not like roof tiles or floorboards, like it was like carpet, like someone walking on carpet. So I woke up, and because I actually thought there was somebody in the house, I went and inspected the rest of the house and didn't find anything.
Now, I can't fully tell you that that's paranormal. Maybe it was a large animal running across the roof and it just startled us enough to wake us up and we didn't fully hear what it sounded like or something. But it was interesting that it happened a couple of days after, you know, coming into possession of this new doll. The second thing that happened around Nancy to me is more interesting, and it actually happened within the room right here that I'm sitting in. I usually just refer to this as like my set room because this is where my little YouTube filming set is set up with all of this stuff behind me here. And generally, this is all this room is used for, just for filming. And I typically leave this all set up behind me unless I've got something going on and I need to move stuff. Now, one time I came into the room, again, this was very shortly after acquiring Nancy, and something had been moved, and it was actually, I'll show you guys. It was this little guy. I don't know if you guys ever even see him on my set very much because he kind of sits right behind me here. But he's just a little clown skeleton. He is not haunted or anything. He was bought from like Target a couple of Halloweens ago just because I liked it. He always sits in the same spot, right? And one day I came into the room and he was on the floor. Like he had been pushed off of the display, off of the trunk that all of my stuff sits on. You may think, oh, yeah, that could have just been gravity and he wasn't placed on right because he is a bit, you know, he's wibbly wobbly. Just how he fell was very peculiar to me. So I would assume if, you know, he's sitting down as he normally does, if it was gravity, he would kind of fall that way. I don't know if you will all agree with me with this, but when I found him, because I obviously wasn't in the room when he fell, he was like this. Like his butt was facing forward, like he fell butt first. I don't know, I still can't explain that. It doesn't necessarily mean it was paranormal or tied to Nancy. It was interesting because it was shortly after she was introduced. But I mean, I do have other artifacts behind me. At least one of these things was bought from an antique store that just happens to operate out of a real life haunted asylum. So, I mean, weird but interesting, and I can't particularly tell you that that was Nancy. So let me know what you guys think about that, because that's definitely something very strange, one of the strangest things that's happened around the dolls. Anyway, let's move on to our next doll story so I can reveal to you which doll is which. So I'm gonna now show you who Dolly is, and Dolly was one of the dolls that I bought off of Etsy. I bought it from a seller who doesn't specialize in haunted items. They came into possession of this doll and they claimed that it was cursed, bringing them a lot of bad luck, things like becoming very ill, having birds fly into their car windshield, just a whole lot of really creepy things. And doll number 2 actually ended up being Dolly, so this little one here. And interestingly, out of all of the dolls, most people, out of all of their guesses, guessed Dolly correct, that Dolly was number 2. So they thought that this was the doll that was freaking me out the most, that kind of made me sick and caused all this weird stuff to happen around me. So as you guys know from the past video that I've already done, Dolly freaks me out the most. I get the weirdest, like, negative, not good sort of vibes from Dolly, and I can't explain why I feel that way to you guys. It's a very strange thing because I don't think that I'm particularly sensitive or tuned into the paranormal. It's just a feeling, a vibe that I get from that little tiny doll. Looking through all of your comments and your thoughts and feelings about that particular doll was kind of the same. A lot of negative connotations rolling around related to this doll. There is a lot of negativity that you'll feel. So I'm just going to read off my computer now what the kind of top ranked comments about Dolly were, because a lot of them were like, not good, this doll is bad news, Amy. So the top comments were mostly about her eyes. So I mean, look at them, they are very weird. And for me, that was something that did draw me to her. But the eyes, people don't like those eyes. Apparently you guys don't like them. Like, that was the #1 commented thing about Dolly. After the eyes, the strongest descriptor used was creepy, followed by weird. Interestingly, there was a few people who said she was either owned or inhabited by an older woman, as in like an elderly lady. Other words were anxiety, cursed, uneasy, bad vibes, sick, don't trust, describing getting a headache, sad and dark. Now I can't say that they were all negative because there were at least 2 people that described feeling peace with Dolly, which is interesting to like look at that contrast. And I should also mention, guys, nobody's thoughts or feelings about these dolls, no one is wrong. Like, I can't tell you that they're all haunted, that they're cursed, that their stories are even true. I can just tell you my own experiences or what I think and feel about the dolls. This is all great like data for me, and I think is a kind of interesting start to investigating these dolls and trying to learn more about them. Now, another thing that I do want to mention about your comments relating to Dolly is that there were a number of physiological kind of descriptors, and I mean, I already have read a couple out, like, you know, people describing to have a headache and anxiety, but there were a couple of others that people also said, like tight-chested, getting shivers, feeling unsettled, and even having like an off weird feeling stomach by just looking at the doll. Now also as well, I know I've already mentioned a lot of people spoke about her eyes and not liking them or trusting them, but there were a lot of people who said that her eyes actually moved during the first video that I've done. So if you haven't watched it or you want to go back and watch it, please do so and let me know. I don't know if it was maybe a trick of the light, because I did use some specific lighting to get all my B-roll of the dolls, but people said from the beginning to like the middle and the end of the video, just sighting the doll, like her eyes had definitely moved, whether she was looking at me, she was looking straight forward or off to the side. And you know what? I get that vibe all the time from this doll. I don't know if it's just like me forgetting which way her eyes are looking or what it is. Now, as kind of already mentioned, this is the doll that made me very, very sick. When I did get very sick, I spoke briefly to my patrons and my YouTube members about getting the doll and how I was feeling. Like, I felt like utter shite, guys. I should also note though, it wasn't COVID or anything like that. I'm actually in a very safe place of the world, South Australia. We're doing good down here. I'm also doing fine now, so I'm all good. But I was sick as a dog, so I'm gonna roll you a clip now.
Now, the reason I wanted to check in with you guys while I'm so sick is because my illness coincided with the arrival of one of my haunted dolls, which I think that that's quite weird, because this haunted doll supposedly is said to make people sick.
So the day that Dolly was shipped to me, the day that she actually arrived at my house, before she was even here, I guess, I woke up with a headache, and I don't know what the heck I did. I must have slept really funky, but I also had one of those things where like your neck hurts so bad that you can kind of like not move it in a certain way. Like normally you've got full mobility. I was just like stuck in one position for like most of the day. By the afternoon, when Dolly arrived, I started feeling like crappy. By the night of the day that she arrived, I was so sick. I was like, I don't know if it's that doll gives me weird feelings, like get it away from me, and I put her over here in the back bedroom. But it's very weird, like I haven't been sick probably in like 2 years, and the day that I get the haunted doll known for making people sick, I fall incredibly sick. So maybe it is completely coincidental and I'm reading into it because I know the backstory of this doll. I can't say for sure the doll made me sick, but it was just really weird. I was also the only one that got sick, and my illness was so up and down where I felt like I was better, and then the next day I was sick again, and then by the afternoon I felt a lot better.
Amy was so sick. So she got sick the day the doll arrived, and then it seemed for the next 4 or 5 weeks she was just sick, then getting better, then sick, then getting better. Like it was non-stop.
But there was just a lot going on, and it all correlated, and it like all started the day that this doll arrived. The other thing that I want to talk to about Dolly is previous owner describing birds flying into their car windshield. And that was something, when I read it, kind of put me off, and I was like, I don't really want this doll because I'm scared of birds. You guys know I have a bird phobia. The day that Dolly was shipped out, so she hadn't even arrived yet, a bird flew into my bedroom window.
So when the bird flew into the window, I was actually on the bed next to Amy when it happened. She was on her laptop doing AmysCrypt stuff, and I was just sitting next to her on my phone going on social media. And all of a sudden something just went smack into the window. It scared the out of us.
That's really weird. It's very coincidental. Like, could that be related to the doll? Or is that just one of those like really strange coincidences that happens from time to time in life? I get a very unsettling feeling from her, just, you know, handling her, being around her in the same room, looking at her. I don't know if it's all in my head. It very may well be. So now we can move on to our last doll story, which is of course Cindy. And she of course matches up to doll number 1. And you guys, a lot of you recognize this doll in my Halloween special, and this doll had some interesting stuff going on around them, which I don't know, I thought was pretty cool. So go watch that video if you haven't watched the Halloween one yet, but you'll see Cindy there. But she is basically another doll that I purchased off of Etsy. The previous owner said that she is supposed to be, or claims to be, you know, inhabited by a spirit 5-year-old girl by the name of Cindy, though they doubt that the doll actually is, and they believe the spirit is a little bit of a mischievous, where they're not really revealing their own identity, and that's a little bit sus, right? So I don't know, this doll, it intrigues me, and that's one of the main reasons why I bought this doll. It really got to you guys as well. I think that this was the doll out of all of the dolls that freaked everyone out the most. And I can't actually say that I'm surprised by that, because Cindy looks like she belongs in a horror movie. So I was very much expecting most of the negative comments to be directed at her, most people to have the weird feelings in, you know, her direction, I guess. The top keywords in relation to Cindy, the very, very top one was creepy. And I think that that was the strongest used keyword across all of the dolls. The next up after creepy were comments about her eyes. And I can see that because, you know, she has the hair on her eyelashes, the eyes open and close. They're actually made of wood, and I guess maybe the wood has stained over time because she's quite old, that it's turned yellow. So the eyes are very creepy, but people said they disliked the eyes, or that she was staring at either me the whole time or staring at them, so staring at you guys right through the camera lens. So people didn't really like the eyes either. That was another thing that kind of freaked them out. There was also a few people that described Cindy as sad, and I thought that that was kind of interesting. Like, they said either that they felt that she was sad or that she looked sad to them. People just said in general that she felt off. They said they don't trust her, they used the word strange, and they even used the word hate to describe her. I gotta say though, there were a couple of good descriptors. So the ones that were used a handful of times were positive and love, or to kind of say that the doll has been previously loved. So for me personally, I can't say that I get a negative or off vibe about this doll. I feel a pretty neutral, you know, vibe around the doll. It feels interesting to me, and I think out of all of the dolls, it is my favorite, like aesthetically, like how she looks. I just love I love Cindy. But so many of you felt weird vibes around her, and I have to say that out of all of these dolls, I know that that is the doll that freaks Jared out the most, which is quite interesting.
Out of all the dolls, I think my least favourite would probably be the baby, the one with the weird yellow eyes. It just looks creepy. Its eyes are creepy. The way it just looks, you know, the way its eyes are just so big, it looks like it's looking in the room, is just creepy. And yeah, I don't want that sleeping in my bedroom with me.
So for Jared, a couple of things have happened around this doll, and I'm not even sure that he knows that there's a correlation or connection to this doll. So what I've been doing is I've been kind of having some of the dolls, all of the dolls, one at a time, sleep in my bedroom with me at night, just to see if I have any dreams, if anything happens, and to see if different things happen around different dolls. And there have been a couple of things that have happened to Jared, I would say, while Cindy is in the room. So the first one, I guess I could describe it as a cold temperature drop, which sounds odd. So basically we were going to bed one night. I'd just been in the shower, so I come back in the bedroom, just getting ready, and Jared was complaining that it was really, really cold. Maybe I didn't feel cold because I just got out of the shower, but I don't remember it being a particularly cold night. Like, it wasn't that cold. And he said, Amy, I've literally got frost breath. So you know when you're outside late at night, super cold, you can see your breath. Our bedroom never gets that cold that you should have that inside. I didn't actually see the breath puff. I don't know if I was just getting ready and doing other stuff while it was happening. He is dead set, like there was something super cold around him.
I recall this one incident. It must have been, I mean, it was winter here in Australia, but bear in mind that winter in Australia is not snowy, you know, it's a bit colder than usual, and it sometimes rains, but other than that, compared to other parts of the world, it's actually quite warm. And our house is quite warm. And I walked into our bedroom and got ready for bed, and I actually could see my breath. And this is inside in our room. Now some of you are probably thinking, well, that's winter for you, but that's never happened to me in this house before. It wasn't a trick of the eyes, like there was 2 breaths where I could see the frost coming out of my mouth, and we were inside in our room.
Jared, do you know which doll was in the bedroom when that happened to you?
There was a doll in the bedroom?
Yeah, I had one of the dolls in the bedroom.
Don't tell me it was that baby doll.
Yeah, it was the baby. Now the other really peculiar thing, again, happened in our bedroom, and it happened while Cindy was in there. So I was already asleep, like this was a totally different night as well, I should add. But I was asleep, and Jared, I think he was staying up on his laptop and he was coding. Like, Jared works crazy hours to make GhostTube, guys. He has worked non-stop all year trying to make the SLS for you all. So like, go follow him on Twitter and say thank you GhostTube app. But anyway, he was staying up, so he was working on his computer. I'm already asleep next to him, and he said that he heard some really weird movement on his side table that he couldn't really explain.
So one night while I was in bed, I was doing some GhostTube stuff. Amy was asleep next to me. I'm a bit of a night owl, so I normally stay up quite late. I heard a sound on my bedside table. Our bedside table is wooden, and it sounded like something scratching or rubbing against wood, like something sliding on my bedside table. Normally I just have my phone, my wallet, and my keys. Sometimes maybe a muesli bar wrapper. But on this occasion there was no wrapper, there was no rubbish. And I distinctly heard something moving on my bedside table. I tried to look to see what it could have been. There was nothing there that could have moved. I thought maybe we had a rodent problem, but we haven't seen any rodents or anything like that in our house. And yeah, that was unexplained. I'm not sure what caused that.
Do you know what doll was in the room when that one happened?
Not the same doll.
It was the same doll.
Where was it?
Just next to my side.
So it wasn't near my bedside table?
No. So with all of this stuff, guys, I've kind of been able to pinpoint and attribute it to certain dolls. There has been a couple of other things that have either happened with all of the dolls in the room or none of the dolls in the room. So one of the things that has happened is hearing loud thuds in the house late at night. So like, we might even be asleep, but it'll be like a really dull, like a thud.
A few nights recently, both Amy and I have actually heard a strange sound coming from within the house that we haven't been able to explain. You know, I mentioned before that we've heard footsteps on one occasion. This sounds like a footstep on carpet, but it's just one. So almost like just a thud, no running footsteps, something like this. Just that. On at least the 2 or 3 times that I can recall, I got up, tried to look at what's out here on the carpeted area and haven't been able to find anything.
Now the other curious thing that, again, there was no dolls in our room, so I can't attribute this to any of them. Might not even be paranormal, I don't know. Both Jared and I were dozing off to sleep one night and I was just about to sleep, and then there was this really loud like crack, like huge noise that came from under our bed, more so I think on Jared's side, and it woke us both up. Like we were almost asleep and it was like, whoa, like we're awake now. Only thing we could think was maybe it was something like electrical popping.
So the scratchy noise I heard on my bedside table wasn't the only noise that I've heard in the bedroom. I've also heard a loud noise that I can't explain on the floor near my bed, and the only thing that I could think was that it was the power board that's sitting on the floor. You know, quite often Amy and I will have things charging all the time, and so we've got these power boards, you know, that are plugged into the wall. I thought maybe it was faulty and it had blown. I actually remember turning it off at the power point because I was worried it was going to start a fire or blow up or something like that. But it actually scared me, and I don't even know if that was it. That's just the only thing I could find down there that is capable of making noise.
I guess weird noises I have heard or picked up on, and one of them I actually caught on camera. So as I said in the last video, I haven't formally started to investigate the dolls yet and try to document any of this or, you know, conduct an actual paranormal investigation with them. But one night, Jared and I were filming the paranormal game, The Raven Man, and there was a weird noise kind of to one of my, the rooms on the side of me, and it sounded like something dropping in the room, and my dolls were in that room. I can't say it's attributed to the Raven Man, I can't say it was the dolls, I don't know, but I'm gonna roll that clip just so you can hear that sound. Now all of this is really, really cool and interesting, but there were like a handful, I guess, of people who felt nothing with the dolls. And that to me is just as interesting, and it's a totally valid thing. Like, thank you for sharing and being honest with me. There were a handful of people that guessed all 3 of the dolls correctly, so they knew the name that matched up to the doll, and that was awesome. Like, that excited me so much. But you know what, guys? I think having these dolls so far has been really, really cool. It's been fun and interesting, and I've enjoyed putting these videos together, and I'm actually really, really excited to keep investigating them with you guys and seeing what else happens, if we can capture any of it on camera, if we can get any relevant responses through any of the paranormal equipment with the dolls. I think it's going to be really, really cool. So let me know if you have ideas on how you want me to investigate the dolls. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to learn more, and I think that this has been a really cool like exercise experiment with you guys, because in a way you're there along for the ride with me, you're helping me investigate them, and already like all of the comments that you left me on that past video, I think I've given us good clues and just a good grasp of what each of these dolls may be like, you know what I'm saying? So I do hope that you guys have enjoyed this. If you did like this video, please remember to like, comment, share and subscribe. That really helps me out. If you want to read about haunted locations from around the world, head to my website, AmysCrypt.com. You guys can follow me at AmysCrypt on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. I also make TikToks now, and I post bonus content on my Patreon and my YouTube members, which I'm going to link below for you guys. But thank you so much for watching, Crypt Keepers. Until next time.